And as people jump on, I will go on
Oh,
and bring them, like whoever just jumps on, I just gotta make sure. The only thing with Zoom. If you're jumping on, make sure you mute yourself, please. All right, there we go. I think everybody's muted now. Okay, let me get out of this screen. Okay, now I think we're officially muted, or at least hopefully everybody is. Okay, let me first start off by introducing the wonderful Dennis DUMAS. He actually was brought into my life last summer, technically. He was helping in my airfit, which all of you guys know I trained in airfit. And the very first class I went to, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm never coming back to this class again. This man is trying to kill me, which all of you know I love hard workouts. Make sure you mute, guys. That I absolutely love really intense hard workouts, but yeah, like he almost killed me. So most of you also know that time last year, I was in a really, really vulnerable state as far as where I was in my journey. I was coming to terms with the fact that I had disordered eating and overexercise issues, and Dennis started a program at my gym called Transformations, which all of you know I went through 2 rounds of that. During this process, Dennis and I became really, really good friends. He was Rhonda has always told me in my journey that when you are ready to learn, the Buddha will show up. Well, he was my Buddha at that point in time in my life that I needed somebody. And I knew, hold on, I gotta mute whoever's talking. Make sure you mute, guys. So I knew at that point in time that where I was in my journey, I needed to trust someone 100% because I couldn't do it myself. And for some reason, Dennis was that man. And I sat down with him in December and said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about this program. Here's what's going on in my life. And I shared everything, and he was very, very receptive and shared everything about himself. And little did I know that the law of attraction totally threw and collided our worlds together. And from there on, not only did he help me personally as far as my nutrition, exercise, gaining balance in my life, but he helped me as an entrepreneur because he is an entrepreneur himself. He is a father. He is a dedicated professional who loves health, fitness, and wellness. He actually has worked with several people in our industry that a lot of us know. And he just is such a wealth of information. So there's no other words I can use to describe him other than I'm going to let him speak and share because that's what he does best. And take it over.
All right. Well, thank you for a super kind intro, both right now and on Facebook. It was both very sweet. All right. So I'll get started first because I know that you guys don't spend a ton of time on these calls. So I'm going to start in a little roundabout way and just kind of describe to you what I think is the most important thing about what you guys do and about fitness as a whole and why it's so critical, not just for business or anything else, but to our overall society and some serious things that I've found about fitness and about health and nutrition and all of that in my journey. And then I'll explain to you shortly after that why I see it that way. And so for me, fitness and workouts and even nutrition are something that throughout my life I've been able to bring people together more so than anything else. It is the one thing that you can get a CEO and a dishwasher. It can cross race, gender, age, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, people will go into a workout together. They'll support each other. They'll love each other. They'll high five each other. They'll be best buddies in the workout. And in any other setting, you couldn't have got these people to hang out together. And for me, that's what's so amazing about fitness, is that we can bring together people from all different walks of life. It doesn't matter your fitness level. And we can participate in something that means something to each person, and that each person can kind of relate to regardless of who they are. I'll explain a little bit more about that. I think that with fitness, the reason that it is that way is because regardless of how tall you are, how short you are, if you're overweight, you're underweight, you're super fit, whatever it may be, we all understand the struggle. We all understand that getting fit is hard, and we understand the reward of it as well. When you do get fit, the confidence, the energy, the change in your career, your family life, and all of these different things take place. And since we all have the same essential body parts, we can all understand the struggle. I mean, everybody knows how difficult a burpee is. Everybody knows how difficult a push-up is. But everybody also knows how great it feels when you accomplish those things. Everyone has the opportunity to do that. Some people have different physical restrictions, but they still get that same joy from being able to accomplish physical things. And to me, that's what the fitness industry is really all about. You guys have a special place in that industry where you guys are reaching out to a lot of people. And you guys have an opportunity to touch many lives. Whether you're just getting started and you have just one person in your circle, or you've been doing this for a while and you have 50, 60, 100, or 200 people in your circle. The most important thing that you understand is that this isn't just about a workout. This isn't just about losing a couple of pounds. This is about impacting people's lifestyle. And people's lifestyle, when impacted by fitness and nutrition, changes everything, you guys. It is such a special opportunity. And I hope that when you guys look at what you do, that you don't look at it as you guys are selling products or information or any of that, but you guys are selling an opportunity to people, or giving an opportunity to people to really change their life. And some people say that these days, and it almost seems like a cliche or cheesy, but it truly is not. It is so, so important that each of you guys really do realize how much of an impact and an opportunity you have. So my opportunity for fitness comes from a very unique and special place. So I'm going to give you a short recap of me and my history and why this means so much to me. So I come from, oh, there you go, thought I lost you. I come from a place where the police, deliveries, none of that were allowed in our neighborhood. You couldn't get pizza delivery. You couldn't even have friends over from other neighborhoods because their parents wouldn't let them come and hang out at your house. So for me, growing up in that area, there wasn't a lot of information freely flowing about health, nutrition, or anything like that. There was everybody just kind of doing their thing and moving through life. And I'm going to get back to this in a minute because I call that going through the motions. And that's what we did in those neighborhoods. We went through the motions, and a lot of things happened to us, right? And we didn't make a lot of things happen. And a big part of what I want to talk about tonight is that. I really want you guys to think about how often are you making things happen and how often are you allowing things to happen to you. The things that you make happen are the things that you control. The things that you make happen are the things that build you up and build that ladder and the stepping stones towards your goals. The things that happen to you, those are the things that frustrate you. Those are the things that hold you back. Those are the things that discourage you. And those are the things you don't have any control over. So as often as possible, be in control. And the word I like to use is intentional. Be intentional with what you do. When I was younger, I was not intentional. I let things kind of come and go and just reacted as things happened to me. And that led me into a pretty bad place. So the first big step for me is I was in a major ATV accident in 1994, and I crushed all 4 of my lumbar vertebrae, a 2 herniated discs, a pinched nerve in my neck, and I crushed just about every bone in my left arm, all of my fingers, my wrist, just the whole arm just smashed. I was 14 years old, and I spent the majority of my freshman year in bed. And that was really tough. That was the time in your life where you're usually starting to get to know your friends and everybody's kind of coming into their own. For me, it was spent at home with tutors and stuff in bed. So that was the first time I really gained some true and honest perspective from a legitimate challenge in life. The neighborhood we grew up in, we didn't know was a challenge back then, so that didn't really count. And so I had to recover from this. It took us 10 months of recovery for me. And while I was doing that, I got to work with an amazing woman who was my physical therapist. And she was able to fix me. She was able to take my body and fix it without scalpels and needles and all these other things, just because she knew what was going on inside of there. And she could just tell me, walk across the room, and she would sit and watch me walk, and then she would tell me, okay, well, these are the things you need to change in order to make sure that you're able to walk straighter. And she made me read a book, an old book called Where the Heel Meets the Road. And Where the Heel Meets the Road talks about the impact of every little step you take, and how that affects your ankles, that affects your knees, that affects your hips, your low back, your shoulders, your neck, and then eventually all the way up into the brain, and how small little things like discomfort that you're not even really aware of can impact your daily routine. And I was so excited by what she said that I got intrigued into fitness and biology. One of the things that she told me was, some people will go through life, and I apply this to careers and things now as well. And I think you guys should apply this to maybe your to-do lists and priorities and things like that. A lot of people have a priority or something on their to-do list that's nagging, and they'll keep putting it off. And this physical therapist, and I remember this from when I was 14, she told me, she said, imagine going hiking and you have that little rock that's in your shoe, and you're like, oh, I don't want to stop. I'm on a roll and I'm going, and you keep like shaking your shoe around and moving it around, and you don't take that rock out. You go for like a half mile with that annoying, pesky little rock in your shoe, and then finally you're like, damn it, I've had enough. You pull that little rock out, and then how much better is everything? It's just a cool cruise now. You're walking and you feel so much better. And she likened that to the pain that nags at you sometimes that you don't take the time to fix. And to me, that applies to so many different things in our life. That applies to your job, to your kids, to everything. And I think it's an interesting analogy, and I wanted to share that with you guys as well. From there, things for me, they were good. I did really, really great in high school. I had the opportunity to go to pretty much any school that I wanted to go to. And I was having a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself. I was healed from my injuries, but I was drastically overweight, but that was okay. I didn't know any better. And I graduated high school. I did great. I decided when I got out of high school that I was going to go into business for myself, because that's the family I come from, entrepreneurs and independent business owners and all of that. So I did that. And that went okay for me. It went financially. It was phenomenal. I made a bunch of money, more money than I had ever seen anybody else in my life make. And I took that with the very, very little knowledge I had about what to do with it, and I began to have a lot of fun with it. I began to party. I began to have a blast with it. And I got myself into a lot of bad stuff, a lot of drugs, a lot of partying, a lot of very just extremely unhealthy activities. At one point I was close to 300 pounds. Just on and on and on. I could run down the list of things for you guys and to put it into perspective, but it all culminated in 2005 with a 3-year prison sentence. That prison sentence for me was a life-changing moment where I had to really own up to my decisions for the first time in my life. I had been fortunate, I had been lucky, I had been blessed, whatever you want to call it. Things had happened to me, and I was fortunate enough to recover from them. But I hadn't really made many things happen. You know, like I was saying before, a lot of stuff happens to you, and you're not realizing it until it's too late. And for me, it was too late at that point. So I was sentenced to 3 years in 2005. I went into the California state prison system. I was, again, super lucky and got into the firefighting world, which we talked about on Facebook last week, or with the small fire near us. I was actually able to participate in wildland firefighting all throughout California. I was jumping out of helicopters. I was doing all these things. And in order to be able to do that, I had to lose almost 100 pounds. And while I was in prison, obviously there's no education on fitness, there's no trainers, there's no nutrition especially. And so I had to take it upon myself to figure it out. And I knew that I didn't want to be a guy in the back of the crew, that I wanted to lead the crew. And so I took it upon myself, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get this done. I started training 2-3 times a day, and trust me, the nutrition there is as bad as it gets. We are very, very blessed in our lives, all of us that are on this call, especially to have optimal nutrition and opportunities to take advantage of that. And it's why sometimes I get super frustrated when I see people making bad decisions. But for me, the perspective is obviously a little bit different. I lost 98 pounds. I went from 34% body fat all the way down. I've been as low as 5%. And all of those things are things that I taught myself, things that I had to figure out on my own. And so I spent those 2 years in fire camp. I left fire camp. because I still hadn't really learned my lesson. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this here in just a little bit. When stuff is happening to you, sometimes you make excuses for the results. And at some point in your life, you'll end up finding out that most of the time when things were happening to you is because of a lack of responsibility or action on another part of your life. For me, I hadn't realized that yet. So getting removed from fire camp was actually the best thing that could have happened to me. Unfortunately, I'm a little stubborn, and it's hard for me to learn lessons. So getting removed from fire camp wasn't quite enough. I got removed and I got put into a different part of the prison system where there's a lot of riots and a lot of bad things that happen. I had a bad attitude while I was there, believe it or not. And while I was there, there was a riot in particular that happened where somebody was hurt really, really bad. And I didn't have anything to do with it, but because of my bad attitude with some of the other inmates, they blamed me for it. I got a year added to my sentence for that. That year was spent in a box that is 6.5 feet by 8 feet that you come out of for about a half hour a month. I lived in that space for 10 months. In that space, you shower in the sink. There is no hot water. You use those old milk cartons from your elementary school days to hold the water, the ice cold water, and dump it on your head so that you can take your showers. And then you clean up the floor of your cell with the only towel that you have, and you go about your day. For me, I could have been upset about that. I could have been mad about it, and I wasn't. But as I progressed, I started to realize that this was my opportunity. This was where I belonged because of my attitude and my actions. And if I was going to recover from any of this and I was going to come home and I was going to be successful again, I needed to take advantage of this time. That time was spent reading and working out. I told you before, there's no education about fitness, and I've never had much more formal education. At that time, I hadn't had any formal education. Now I've gone and I've researched and I've looked and I've found every opportunity to learn. At that point, it was just me, the floor of my cell, a towel, and that's it. And I was in a place that was built in the 1940s, a place called Chino. You guys can look it up after our call. There's a place there called Palm Hall. You can look that up as well. It is the headquarters for everything bad in the California State Prison System. It's where they send people when they can't behave in prison. Whether you did what you are accused of or not, you get to go spend your time there. They call it administrative segregation. And I spent 10 months in that place. While I was there, I created the program that Leanne did called Transformations. That program has touched the lives of over 6,000 participants. It's made an average of $1.3 million since I started it per year. And that was created in a prison cell. I also created a program called Pure Gravity that has been, Transformations and Pure Gravity both are being launched in Australia and Japan this month. So just all of it, though, coming from that moment where most people would have buttoned up and said, you know what, I don't deserve to be here. I didn't do what I'm accused of, and been frustrated. For me, that lasted about 2 days, and then it became time to focus. And my focus turned into a lot of really amazing results when I came home. One interesting thing I'll tell you guys about that time that I spent, there's a lot of interesting things I could go on for a very, very long time. One of the really interesting things is that I began to lead the workouts. And I told you guys before that I have a special perspective on the importance of fitness. And that comes from the fact that the California State Prison System is the singular most racially segregated place in our country, maybe even in the world. You're not allowed to share food with another race. You will, and I'm not being trying to sound crazy, but they'll kill you for it. And that's how racially segregated it is. But there's this one thing, this one common denominator that you could do that people all respected for each other, and that was fitness. When it came time to your workout, the other races were quiet for you and they gave you your space, and you did the same for them. There were even opportunities on some yards where your workout was the time where you could hang out with other races. You could talk about sports. You could talk about how many burpees, push-ups, pull-ups, dips, because that's all we could do, and that's why I do them so well. You could talk about all of that if you wanted to, and no one held it against you. And that was when I started to notice that there's something to this. There's something really special about physical activity. There's something really special about being comfortable in your own skin and in your own body. And there's just no words that I can say that can really, really drive home to you guys the importance of what you do. What you do is you give people a tool, a reason, and an example. If you can continue to believe that your tool, your reason, and your example will at least impact one person a day, one person a month, or one person a year, it doesn't matter. Just remember that that impact will change not only their life, but all the lives that they touch, their kids, their family, their careers, and everything else. You guys, it's so important that you really think about what I'm saying, because fitness to me is the one thing that'll bring anybody and everybody together. I've seen workouts be punishment for fights and people enjoy themselves after it. I've seen workouts for me and my son. If I say a bad word in front of my son, I do burpees. And he's 4 years old and he'll call me out on it every time. And right now the deal is that I do them on call. If we're in a restaurant and I'm like, damn it, oh, doing burpees in the restaurant. And that's how we get down. You have to be held accountable. And so I hold myself accountable to him for that. My point is, you guys, I have that special perspective because I was in a place that most people will never get to experience and never should have to experience. And for me, it was the thing that got me through. Health, fitness, and wellness was the one common denominator that each person there that tried so desperately to demonstrate hate found a common ground on. And I'll tell you what, when you see that happen, you come home with a different idea of what people are capable of. For me, I went into the prison system almost 3 years ago. I was 295 the day that I was admitted in Delano State Prison. And I came out 187 pounds. That is an exceptional amount of weight to lose, but more importantly, drastically more important, it's an exceptional new feeling to have. I came home with a better posture. I came home with my chin higher. I came home more confident in my business and my sales. I came home able to walk onto job sites. And when I say job sites, my trade when I was growing up is light design. So I worked in the lighting industry for a long time. And so I came home and I sold more lights and I designed more houses and I did more stuff than I was ever able to do before. And that was from the confidence I had in myself, from being confident in my own skin. I could walk into places and know that when people looked at me, the only reason they would look at me was because of the information I was bringing to the table and not because I had any appearance that I was insecure about. And that is an incredible feeling to have. For those of you who are working on doing that for yourself right now, don't give up on that. And for those of you who are working on doing that for other people right now, please remember what I said in the beginning. What you do is more, way, 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 way more than workout and nutrition. It's about impacting people's lifestyle so that they can impact the people around them, the people that they communicate with. So I came home in 2008, June 9th, 2008, 6/9/08. That day was obviously a very special day for me. I had been in prison for 3 years. I came home to a crashed economy, and I came home to a bankrupt company. Now, I obviously, while I was away, never expected that. No one knew that this was going to happen. I was gone for a long time, 3 years, a lot of things changed. So I came home and I sat down on the couch with my dad, and I had a pair of state issue shoes, a t-shirt, and some sweats. Plus, they give you $100 when you leave. See you on your way. Well, I came back to my dad's house, and he and I sat down and we talked, and we said, well, what are we going to do? And the idea, what we needed to do was we needed to fix everything. We needed to get to work. And that's what we did. We rebuilt his company that year. We earned over $500,000 in revenue from a bankrupt company that earned probably a third of that the prior year. But I also had sat down and I had written down a lot of goals. And this is something I really want you guys to take to heart. I sat down and I wrote a plan, a detailed plan. I just did this exercise with my 15-year-old niece. And it's something that if you have not done, you need to do. She's a brilliant girl, and she's going through all these honors classes and all these different things. And I was the first person to sit down with her and say, hey, what do you really want to do? Never mind what do you want to go to college for, but what happens after college? What happens when you're 35, when you're 40? What do you want to do? The classes you take today, are they something that's building you up for that? And I ask you guys that same question. Is what you're doing today and the plan that you have building you up for the end result that you're looking for? Because if it's not, then you need to sit down and rewrite it. And if you haven't written it, you need to sit down and write it. I sat down in that cell before I came home and I wrote out what I was going to do. I was going to get into fitness full time. My family has a very lucrative lighting business now, and I knew it would become very lucrative again once I was a part of it and I was able to help out. But that's not my goal. That wasn't my passion. That wasn't my goal. I found my passion in prison, and my passion was exercise. My passion was actually truly relationships. And exercise was the tool to develop those relationships for me. So I came home and I got started on helping my dad recover his business. And I also got started on finding a way to get full-time into fitness. And the way that I found to do that was because I had no money and I had nothing else. And so I begged for some square footage in a office building in Palm Desert. And I traded out the years of electrical work in that building to be able to get that square footage. Again, you guys, I'm sharing a lot of these examples, and as I go through, I'll point out why. And that to me is important because a lot of people say, well, I don't have the money to do something, or I don't have the time to do it. You guys, trust me, you have what it takes. You just have to reevaluate the tool set that you have and make it work at the moment that you have, and then go after your goals. Trust me, we had no money and we opened up a fitness studio. We probably spent $500 when we opened up our first fitness studio. And that $500 was spent on drywall patch and drywall and paint. And that was about it. And we opened the doors and we got people in there. We started touching their lives, started changing their lives. And as soon as you have impact on 1 or 2 lives, next thing you know, 3 or 4 show up, then 5 or 6 and 7 or 8, and it starts to build. I'm an impatient person. I was like, man, I need to fill up quicker. I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more. But I had to keep going back to that plan that I had and look at the time that I wrote down on that plan. And I had given myself a window of what it was going to take to be able to get to that end result. And I was still in that window, so I needed to calm down. And I did. And the next thing I know, I outgrew both of those fitness studios over a period of a couple of years. I remodeled them. I put showers in locker rooms. I subleased space. All of a sudden, I was a businessman. And I had these amazing things going on, but I was still involved in the lighting business. So again, an opportunity came up for me to go full-time in fitness, and I took it. I moved to the Bay Area, and you guys, this is an important example for you guys to think about. When I made that move, a lot of people looked at me and said, what are you doing? You haven't even given it any thought. Because all they saw was from the outside. They knew that I was given an opportunity, and 1 week later, I moved my family 400 miles into a town I had never been. And they said, you can't do that. That's too much risk. What are you doing? You need to think about this. But little did they know that 2 years prior, I had written down that I was going to do this when the opportunity came up. So for me, I've been thinking about this. I'm sorry that they were unaware, but this isn't a risky decision. This is calculated, and this is what I'm doing. And you know what? That's the kind of stuff you guys need to be ready for. If you haven't thought about it, you won't identify it. If you haven't given it forethought, you'll pause, you'll take pause, you'll wait, and you'll miss. And then you'll have to wait for the next opportunity. But if you've written out where you want to go and what you want to do, when it comes up, you'll be ready to act. You'll be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. Many, many, many times since I came home from prison, people have told me that I take too many risks. But again, they don't know this is calculated. It's all part of a plan. Recently, where Leanne and I met, I was in charge of the 11th largest fitness company in the country, over 1,000 trainers reporting up to me. Trainers, instructors, nutritionists, regional managers, all these different things. And this is a guy who 7 years ago paroled from the highest level of security in the state of California's prison system. And now I had all of these people with all of these degrees and all of this education and all of this experience reporting up to me. And they weren't reporting to me because I was smarter than them or I had learned more than them. They were reporting to me because I respected them, I respected their journey, and I respected the journey that was ahead of us. And I was anxious, I was ambitious, and I was determined. And no matter what, I knew that the most important thing in my world was relationships. And I'm an expert at relationships. I love people. I love talking to people. I love listening to people. I love figuring out a way to relate to people. You guys, the way the reason I say I'm an expert at relationships, the way that I think I got there, since I was a small kid, I have always been curious. I will walk up to anybody regardless of their status or whomever they think they are and ask them how they got there. What did you do? What mistakes did you make? What success did you have? What do you recommend I do? And I've walked up to people and they've told me, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to talk about this. They've told me, what, are you crazy? But usually they tell me, hey, let's sit down and talk about it. The most successful people in your world are anxious to tell you about it. They're not anxious to be asked for things. They're anxious to share things that are going to help you get where they know they came from. They're going to help you get out of that, and they're going to help you get to the successful points at which they are. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. Don't be afraid to be curious, and don't be afraid to walk up to whomever you see when you go to Summit. I know you guys are getting ready to do some big things with Beachbody. When you get there, walk up to the person that everybody looks up to, shake their hand, look at them in the eye, and tell them, hey, how'd you do it? What was step one? What was step two? What should I talk to until they tell you to get the hell out of there? Do whatever you got to do. That's what matters the most. Don't be shy and don't be scared. If you are, you'll miss an opportunity. You guys, I went from parole to the top of the food chain in the fitness industry very, very quickly because I was calculated, I was determined, and I was not scared. Since then, I've resigned from that role and gone on to start my own business. You guys, I took, like I said, and I'm not exaggerating, 1,000 trainers, all the regional directors, their managers, vice president of a company. You guys, I have a high school education. I just got out of prison, and that's where I was. But it wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't where I needed to be, and it wasn't the end of my plan. It was a part of my plan. And if you write that plan and you believe in it, you won't be afraid. So I walked into work one morning and I said, hey guys, I quit. And they said, what? And I said, yeah, I went home and I thought about it over the weekend and I quit. They're like, well, wait a minute, we'll give you 5% of the company. No, I'm good, I quit. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, that's because you don't know my plan. And I went and I followed my heart. I followed my plan. Right now, I am working on raising money. Something like, wow, never thought I would ever be doing that, but I'm actually having conversations with some of the biggest, most successful venture capitalists in the world. I'm sitting in their offices, this guy who's 7 years out of the state prison, doing these exciting things, talking about changing people's lives and all the different work that I've done. And in the past 7 years, I've been able to touch the lives of thousands and thousands of people. I've been fortunate enough to travel to Australia, and now I'm getting ready to go to Japan to speak in front of crowds of fitness enthusiasts in those spaces. And I am truly a believer that all of that is made possible by sheer passion. And that's it. I really believe that. Your passion, when you start to break it down, will lead you in the right direction. You can't sit there and say, I'm passionate. You need to show it. A lot of people are like, well, I have passion. Well, if no one else knows it but you, that doesn't do you any good. You've got to get up and you've got to show it and you've got to make it real and you've got to put it into action. Everything else that you need will fall into place. There's a couple of examples that I want to give you guys. I know we're running probably a little longer than you guys are supposed to, but I want to give you guys a couple of important examples. So, I can come on, I can share my story, and yeah, it's a story of resiliency and a story, from breaking my back to growing up in a really bad neighborhood to going to prison to losing a year of my life for something I didn't do, living in a cell for 10 months, and all of these different things. I could tell you about that, and we could hang up and we could give each other high fives, and you guys could feel inspired for a little bit. But really, the important thing about this is that you guys are able to walk away and not just feel like, man, that's awesome. If he can do it, I can do it. Or, man, he lost that weight, I could do that. Man, if he built that business, I could do that. That fades, guys. That's going to last like 3 hours for some of you and maybe a week for others. And then you guys are going to be going through the motions again. The best and biggest piece of advice that I can give you is for you guys to think about these things on a daily basis. Sit down and write your plan. Review your plan. If you're not reviewing your plan weekly, you'll forget about it and you'll never get there. One thing, the more that you guys have interaction with me, you'll learn I'm very candid and honest about everything because we don't have time not to be. And I promise you, if you don't have a plan yet, you will fail. And then you'll have to restart. That doesn't mean you won't have success at some point, but you can go ahead and push that out a little bit further. Like when I help people with nutrition, I always tell them, you can eat whatever the hell you want. It just means your results are further and further away. The more sacrifices you make, the closer the end point becomes. The less sacrifices you make, the further it goes. You guys, there's probably people on this call who know more about the human body than me. There's people on this call who can run further, jump farther, just all these other different things. There's probably people on the call that have made more money in personal training than me. but there is nobody on this call that is more passionate about people. And I believe that, and you should believe that about yourself, because if you don't, then you're not giving yourself the credit that you need to get where you want to go. You should believe that what you're doing is the most important that anyone in the world is doing. You should believe that your plan is the best plan. You should believe that no matter what, you're going to get there. If you don't believe that stuff about your guys' opportunities and your plans, then you're not ever going to get to where you want to go. You have to be the biggest believer in you. And regardless of what anyone else thinks, believe it's the most important thing that's happening on the face of the earth today is you executing your plan. If you believe that, then imagine the passion that will come from that. If you put it all into that, then imagine the determination that will come from that. And the opportunity for you to not be successful will go away. I'm going to give you guys 4 words that mean the world to me. And those 4 words are the business statement and mission of my new company. The words are serve, empower, educate, and inspire. When you guys can sit back and say that, you know what, I'm serving people. I am helping people. You get a call for a prospective coach that wants to join your team or whatever it may be, and you just talk to them about them. You serve a purpose for them. You'll empower them. And I promise you this, when people are empowered, when it's you that's empowered them, all the walls go away, all the trust is there, and the opportunity for you to have an impact on their life becomes real. Serve people, you'll then empower them, and then the opportunity to educate them is there. Nobody will accept you as an educator without trust. The best way to earn someone's trust is to serve and empower them. Once you're able to do that, you begin to supply an education to them. That education will become real, it'll become impactful, and it'll carry over to their career, their family, their kids. You guys, what you do only impacts them for an hour a day, you will fail. Everything that you do needs to carry through their life, through their entire life, their kids, their families, their parents, their aunts and uncles. If you don't have people in your circle that are sitting down saying, you know what, I need to call my Aunt Susan out in Arkansas who's 37% body fat and talk to her about this, then you guys aren't being passionate enough about it. You guys got to get crazy. You guys got to understand the importance of what you do. The last part of that is to inspire. Once you've educated people, imagine this. Imagine that people, you've served them, you've empowered them, you've educated them. How is it possible that they could ever not be inspired? You guys serve people, empower people, teach them everything you know, and inspire them to do the things that you know are right. I promise you that fitness is nothing but a tool. All it is a tool. That's it. You guys remember when we talk about our industry, that our industry has been making money year over year for the last 30 years. The revenues have gone up. Unfortunately, so has diabetes, so has obesity, so has childhood obesity, so have eating disorders, so has heart disease in men and women. So we got to do better, right? We got to do more. And in my opinion, what you guys do, what Beachbody does, is doing more and is doing better. And I really, truly believe that. I don't make any money from Beachbody. I don't make any money from being on this call. I do this because I believe it, and I don't say things I don't believe in. You guys have an opportunity to impact people and change the trends. Change the trend, guys. Let's make more money, because you got to have money to help people. I believe that. I'm never going to sit on a call and say you should give anything away. Go get your money. But remember, when you're getting that money, make sure that you're having an impact. Then you deserve the money, right? Have an impact, get your money. Let's get people in shape. Let's get people happy. Let's fix the mental illnesses. Let's fix the mental challenges. All of those things, you guys have an opportunity to do that. Take it that serious, own that opportunity, and I promise you guys will be successful. I really, truly, truly appreciate your guys' time tonight. And I'm very, very grateful to Leanne for allowing me to come on and talk to you guys. I hope you guys learned a little bit of something. I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say, and I look forward to an opportunity to speak to you guys again, whether it be about my story or sales or anything I can ever help you guys with. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, Dennis. That was amazing. Better than I could even imagine. And thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your knowledge. And I think you just sent my team an amazing message that they will carry in their hearts, in their business. And that ripple effect is going to be, shall I say, epic? Thank you so much. I will post the recording.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.